Hello and welcome to the latest installment of Discussion. We and Anton are here to discuss all the Brewers action that's occurred over the last 7 days. Anton, good evening. How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. But unfortunately, we can't be as maybe upbeat as we were in the previous few weeks. We've been on an incredible run, I think, and it's been one of the best form teams in the country since Jimmy's come in. We knew the blip was going to happen at one point. It's happened over these last few games. Losses to Shrewsbury Town and MK Dons. Anton, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I predicted that there would be a bump in the road somewhere. I didn't probably quite think it might be these two games, and I didn't probably think it'd be two games on the bounce. But a bit of realization, I think, hopefully for fans as well as fans mainly. I think some fans got a little bit excited what might happen, but I think Jimmy and Dino have kept their feet firmly on the floor, and they're giving the players the rest of the week off with a free weekend coming up. So a bit refreshed for the following week, and obviously they can have a 4 weeks worth of training next week to work on where they think they've gone wrong and try and get some freshness back in those legs to go again.
Yeah, and like you said, I think, I mean, you never want to kind of go into, I don't think you ever want to go into an international break on the back of a defeat, especially two defeats. But at the same time, it's kind of it's almost come at a good time for us in the fact that we've kind of had these run of non-stop Saturday, Tuesday games. We're playing a very aggressive, high tempo style of football. And now that gives us, like you said, a chance to kind of get a bit of energy back in the system. Players can have a bit of a rest and then back in heading into our games after the break.
Yeah, I think the other thing you got to remember is that obviously we pretty much reshaped the squad and team in January. So, those players would have come in without playing probably much football, the majority of them. So you kind of needed a little bit of a pre-season, and they probably didn't quite get the best, a run of weeks and days for a proper kind of build up to it. They're thrown into the fire, into the wolves a little bit early, and thankfully it worked. But it was going to catch up with them eventually. So you say some freshness in those legs. But you said earlier the positivity kind of ends and whatever, but we're still one of the form teams in the country. And if the season had started on the January the 1st, I still think we'd be in the promotion spot. So even though it is 2 losses on the bounce, we can still be positive because we're 7 points clear, I think, of the drop still. And when we were rock bottom, out for the count, and as the boxing referee would say, probably on about the 8 count, we're miles better off than we were. So there's still lots to be positive about, but I think just that realism have kicked in that we're not quite out of this mess, and we're not going to steamroll up the league and up to the championship just quite straight away. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of time in the season to have. There's 10 games left. What did you say? We've played February and March. We've played pretty much every Saturday, Tuesday. So it is going to take its toll. So much needed rest at the right time.
Yeah, and I think actually those kind of two performances that we saw against Shrewsbury and MK were kind of, they came across to me as almost tired performances, kind of tired players, if you will, as not for the want of trying, but there's just, not that little bit of energy and that little bit extra kind of, yard that we'd kind of shown when Jimmy first came in, and we got, a squad that was kind of, like you said, some new signings, a lot of kind of, everyone kind of lifted themselves, and, it was just kind of, we kind of limped our way across the line into the international break. But it's been a really good run, first of all, and it's something that really does need credit. And, we went unbeaten for a long time as well. With still in really good away form. So that'll be interesting to see how it turns out when we return from the break. But, if we can turn it around at the Pirelli, like you said, we'll be in a very good place again.
Yeah, I think is it 3 losses in Jimmy's 14 games, I think it is. So you say if you turned it the other way and the season had started at that point, would be in the top 4, I would easily think. So there's plenty to be positive about. The other thing about it all is teams would have worked out, due to scouting and whatever, teams would have worked out how we play. So they'll start counteracting that. And with the short space of time we've had, there is only probably a plan A, and there isn't a plan B as such. Some managers don't use a plan B. We talked about that last week with Russell Moore openly saying about criticism he had. I believe in a certain style of way, so I'm going to do that, for 90 minutes. So that could be Jimmy's philosophy as well. But teams will have worked us out a little bit, so there will be a little bit of tweaking. I think we saw that on Tuesday night. Johnny Smith started out on the left at the start of the game rather than obviously on the right that he has been. I think he's been marked out the game a little bit the last few games, and obviously not having him as much time on the ball, obviously due to teams probably marking him or double marking him. Obviously that outlet and directness and that threat's probably nullified a little bit. So some of it will be due to tired legs. Some of it I think will be down to teams working us out. And I think some of it, there would have been a buzz those first couple of wins, a freshness to the team, and everybody eager to kind of impress. I'm not saying that they've all got a bit ahead of themselves and naturally thought that things would just happen and they hadn't got to work as hard, but there might be a little bit in there as well where they're not working as hard because they think it's coming as natural. So they've got to ensure that they're still at the top of their game, and not just expect things to happen every week. So I think it's a accumulation of things really, but mainly I think it'll be tiredness and teams starting to scout us a little bit more. And we're a threat. We've beaten the top sides, we've beaten sides around us, we've beaten sides below us. So we're capable of beating anyone in the league. So I think people have got to stand up and take a bit more notice of us now.
Yeah, I think that's almost kind of kind of suffering a little bit from being, informed. Like you said, teams doing that research, that little bit extra research. They know a little bit more about us now as well. We've kind of our style. It's kind of it's kind of shown itself to everyone, and with the results we've been getting, like you said, Johnny Smith has really kind of been marked out of these last few games. I think kind of getting doubled up on, as you mentioned. But it'll be a good chance to kind of, as you said, just kind of rejuvenate both, whether it be tactically, fitness wise, kind of like I said, tweak a few things, and we'll be good to go when we return from the break, hopefully.
Yeah, I think physical wise they're going to be tired, but I think mentally as well. They had a squad there that was probably down on confidence at Christmas. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes, so there'll be a lot of friendships have been broken up. Obviously, a lot of new friendships formed with a lot of players coming in. And that rigorous routine of Tuesday, Saturday. They were travelling up and down the country to away games, so it will be mentally as tough as well as physically. So it'll be a good chance to recharge the batteries now and go again. So also hit a reset button. I don't think there's a lot wrong. It's just getting the mind and soul kind of body back into how it was a few weeks back.
Yeah, and that's certainly something we will be looking to do, I'm sure. In regards to the games that we played, obviously we played MK Dons first on Saturday, and it was just one of those performances where I don't really think it quite clicked for us. Really, we kind of conceded a sloppy penalty. It's never nice to give away a penalty and then concede it, and then you concede another set play, which I'm sure Jimmy and Dino will be quite frustrated about. So that's been one of the kind of the highlights for us, is how we've attacked set pieces and also defended them. But yeah, I mean, we showed signs in that MK Dons game. Like I said, it just never really clicked for us.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think we missed Michael Bostwick in that MK Dons game. Mainly more for his attacking, from set pieces. I think we've said this before. That's a big way and part of what we're playing at the minute. We found the Hamer long throw, and we've been quite good at the free kicks and the corners as well, different routines and different scenarios. So I think not having Michael Bostwick, obviously that partnership is built with Hayden Carter, with Hamer, and obviously Brayford alongside, and obviously then Michael Mantion stepping into that holding role in front. So we've had to change the way our dynamics are a little bit. I think he has been a big loss. he's not the fastest in the world, and we're still playing quite a high line. And I think because of that, Garrett started coming out of his box. I think we saw that more on Saturday and certainly on Tuesday. His command of the area is a lot better than it was. I think there's still areas to improve. I still think the goalkeeping situation is interesting. And I'd like to see O'Hara given another go. I think on his day, I think he probably is the better goalkeeper. But Ben Garrett has done a good job. But unfortunately, errors. As a goalkeeper, as you know yourself, probably growing up being that as a kid, your errors, unfortunately, when you're in goal, they normally lead to a goal. So, unfortunately for him, it's highlighted a little bit more. But I think Garrett has improved from what we saw last season and earlier on in this season. When we've struggled. So, there's been a lot of criticism for him, and I'm probably his biggest critic. But I also take the hat off to him, the fact that he's gotten with it. He's mentally, prepared himself. And he's done all he can with the new goalkeeper coach coming in as well, probably instilled a bit of confidence in him. So I think it's been an accumulation of things. But for me, the big one will be Michael Bostwick in that MK Dons game, and just the way the dynamics have had to change. I think we missed that no end.
One of the few positives to, I think, take from that MK Dons game specifically was, first of all, Lucas Akins is back on the score sheet, albeit with a penalty. But those last kind of, from when we got that penalty, we really kind of looked at really, I think, really had a really good spell of 15, kind of 20 minutes up until the end where I think we looked quite dangerous. And, it'd been we've been getting our way along, and then we just turned it up. And one of the great things about Jimmy's philosophy, and we know from the past in League One, was that we kept on going until the 95th, 96th minute. And the fitness levels are there. Obviously, said we're on the back of a lot of games, but the ability to kind of go for as long as you can is there. And when we've found ourselves 2-0 down in the games, you give yourself as good an opportunity as you can to get back into it. Unfortunately, we didn't against MK Dons. Unfortunately, we didn't against Shrewsbury. And obviously, you'd rather not go behind. But if you do, it's kind of, the opportunity is there. And even if you're ahead in the game, it's kind of that extra edge that you get over the opposition, who you'd hope will be tiring, and you get some tired legs out on the pitch.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think we've found a way of stepping up a gear or two in games. I think the way we play, we try and be solid for 60 minutes and then kind of have a go at them. So yeah, we've changed it, and as you say, in that last 20 minutes against MK Dons, we really kind of went for it, which is also obviously pleasing to see. We've started getting more shots at goal, and as I said before, more shots at goal. Hopefully, that means more shots on target. I think we've been making them count as well. And more shots on target will mean goals. So yeah, we did step it up a gear. But as I've always said, attacking players and goal scorers will cost money. So, we've got Kane using a really rich vein of form who can score goals. We've got Lucas, we've got Johnny Smith. But if one of them or two of them don't come off, we haven't really got a lot of goal scoring threat or experience or proven goal scorers out there to come in and kind of replace them. So, it's difficult at times, even though we stepped up that pace and those gears, it doesn't always quite work out. And I think we're just unlucky. Say we're unlucky. I think you create your own luck, but I think we just come unstuck a little bit on Saturday and on Tuesday.
Yeah, and on Saturday, obviously, I think our game plan almost kind of went out the window when we conceded so early on, which is something that we're not really used to seeing. I'm going to ask the important question now. Do you think it was a penalty by Tom Hamer, a handball? I mean, I don't think the highlights give us the best angle. What do you reckon?
The rule book as it is, it's a penalty. In common sense land, where I like to think I live in, it's a harsh penalty to give. There was no way he was trying to handball it, and I think that it's a big area, isn't it, of football, along with the VAR kind of situation that I think the governing bodies need to look at. The easy answer to your question, do I think it was a penalty? Yes, unfortunately, because that's the rules of the game and that's what has been enforced at the minute. 5 years ago, was it a penalty? No. In 5 years' time, do I think it'll be a penalty? Hopefully, no. So I've given you 4 different answers there, I think. So,
But
yourself, what do you think? Do you think it was a penalty?
yeah, I mean, like you said, and it's kind of one of those where the problem, if people view it as being a problem, is kind of the problems with the rule, not with the kind of decision, if you will. And we've seen that, I think, a few times in the Premier League, especially earlier in the season when the handball rule was kind of incredible and there was handballs every single game. And it's like, well, the referees seem to be applying that rule to the best of, it's just the best they can. It's just the clarification of that rule. And I think it's such a vague area of the game anyway. You've got to kind of accept it and, you try and move on from there. I mean, what was, is it a deliberate handball or not? How am I meant to tell? It's kind of one of those where, I mean, I think there's situations where you're like, well, yeah, he's obviously not meant that. But then you get all the different other factors coming in of, is it up here? Is it outside of your body shape? Is it, you've got your kind of figure that they've come up with now. And if your arm's out there, then it's a handball and it's this and it's that. It's a very complicated part. But I think, yeah, like you said, with the rules, you've got to kind of accept that the penalty can be given, and we've conceded one there.
Probably an open-ended question back to you again. There's probably one that you can talk about hours from. But do you think kind of how the rules are? It's kind of the referees have to kind of like stick to the letter of them. So they've made all these rules in and say that our hands are going to be down across the body, blah 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 blah. You look back to the Newcastle game when we played, that penalty was taken. Obviously, there's the infringement, but kind of the referee went, well, hang on a minute, no, it was the opposing team that was infringing, so why should they retake it? So he used a bit of common sense there. And I'd like to see a bit more of that in football. I think as much as referees get slated, and being a coach and even at cricket, umpires, you criticise them. They're only doing what they think's correct. And the game's developed from people making decisions and officiating. So personally, I think technology is taking it too far. But I think that's partly because of how much money is involved. But obviously, if you do it at the top level, you've got to do it down. But obviously, the VAR doesn't roll all the way down, so I don't think it is fair how the rules are written. So for me, I think they're being too structured with the thing. I think there's got to be more common sense. But I can see why they don't do it, because obviously there's got to be some consistency. But I think you've got to let people be people and make their own decisions. So that's where I am with it. And the same with offsides. You can talk for hours upon hours on that as well. But for me, the handball on Saturday was harsh, as I say. I'm with you. As the rules are written, it's a penalty.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said there, I think, because like you mentioned that Newcastle game, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, after that decision got made, and I'll be honest, as a fan sat in the crowd, I was thinking, well, this has got to be the correct decision, really. If the opposing player's encroached, and then surely that should be our free kick. And like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but the rule kind of got changed, got clarified not long after that incident, and we've seen it in the Premier League this season. I think it was Rodri scoring for Man City against Aston Villa, I think, and he kind of was offside, but because Mings has played the ball, the play resets, he's onside. They went on to score from that, and then I think that rule also got kind of a bit more clarity after that. So it's, I don't know, it's one of those where I don't think much attention gets drawn to it until something big happens and everyone's kind of going, wow, how has this referee made this decision? And well, part of you saying, well, it kind of seems actually like the right thing to do, but it's also the wrong decision. It's a pretty kind of difficult scenario, really.
Yeah. As I say, I've been on the coaching side of it, managed a team, obviously, again, with cricket and with umpires. The refereeing and officiating games is just such a hard job. And, I criticised them at the time, the heat of the moment. But I wouldn't want to do that job either. So I get why they need help. But Personally, I think referees should come out at end of games and if there has been incidents, kind of clarify what's going on. I'm sure they do that to the two dressing rooms and managers after a game. And fans unfortunately are the ones that make football, and they're the ones that pay the money for the players to be played their wages, which is their jobs. So we as fans, I believe, have a right to know what has been said and why things haven't been given or have been given. So I don't say they should come out and be victimized and be put on the spot and kind of challenged, but I think there should be a way of them explaining the decisions. If there is a dodgy decision, I'll say dodgy, if there's a decision that's very discussable or the argumentative between the two sides, I think they should come out and explain why it was given and under what points and rules. But I think the clarity then for everyone to see would be great, and it'll be a better understanding for fans and I think for players alike. And I think that'll bridge then the gap of people's understanding. It'll certainly teach them more about the game as well. But I also think that would also demand a lot more respect of referees. I watched a bit of the rugby on Saturday. Not that I'm a big rugby fan, but the referees, they had a VAR incident, but they were actually talking to the players as the VAR was being checked, and they were talking through what had happened, why they were checking it, and what would happen if check one was okay and check two was okay. And they did it in stages, but obviously because they're mic'd up and everyone can hear them on the telly, everybody knows what's going on, players and fans and coaching staff alike. And I'm not a big rugby fan, but I think football can learn about it. I know there's less stoppages and less natural stoppages in there, but I think we can somehow, if we're going to continue with this technology business, then I think there's certainly a better way of doing it. And I think there just need to be more transparent with everybody. That was a long answer, wasn't it? I think.
Well, yeah, but I agree with most of what you're saying. I mean, it's interesting you said about the rugby and kind of being mic'd up. I know there's, or I've seen a lot of people who are kind of suggesting, why can't we do that in the Premier League? There's all this great technology, stick a mic on the referee, but I don't think actually that. I'm not sure if it would be appropriate. Might not be the right word, but I'm not sure if it's. I mean, we've seen it I think they do it in Australia or did it in Australia. I'm not sure if that would be a brilliant. Also, referees coming and doing kind of a post-match interview, which maybe I'm a little bit bigger fan of. I think you just kind of you got Sky Sports and that, or BT, whoever it is, they come and go. Speak to the referee after the game. Well, if it doesn't need to be every game, but like you said, if there's a big incident, a big kind of controversial point, they can come out and give their view. And for me, I mean, not really supporting passionately a Premier League club, but it's just a nice thing to see. And you can kind of, I think when you can, what they're thinking, you can understand it a bit more. And even if you disagree with the decision, you can, hopefully, in theory, you should be able to see at least why it's been given at that moment, or why, penalties have been given, handballs been given, or whatever. And it just kind of brings the kind of fans a little bit closer. But like you said, something that I think is deserved.
It is, but I think they've got to also be very careful that they don't bridge the gap between Premier League football and then the rest, because I know Premier League football mounts the most money, but at the end of the day, rules are rules, and they've got to be consistent from the top end to the bottom end. Little Johnny that's playing on a Sunday wants the same. He dreams of being a Premiership player, so why should he not be dealt with the same way as a Premiership referee would, or by a BGFL ref or whatever? So you've got to make sure that you put rules and laws into the game that are clarified and consistent from grassroots level all the way up. Even the big jump from Premiership football to League One football, and then probably League One down to conference. The difference of officiating and the technology involved is completely different. That I completely disagree with. You've got to put things in place that is consistent for everybody. And that's the one thing about football I think I really do dislike, is the lack of consistency from league to league, because, it's a defined right to being in the Premier League and the higher leagues, but they're all in there for the same reason. They're all part of the same governing body. We're all in it for the same reasons, so they should all be the same.
Yeah, and that seems like a kind of fair thing. It's hopefully something we'll kind of see more through these coming years as football kind of, the fans get back into the stadiums and so forth. But we move on to the Shrewsbury game, which again, it was just a tired performance. We kind of conceded a few kind of sloppy goals again and lost, but there's positives to take from it, which is not a positive, but it's something good to look at. We scored a great goal. Sean Clare, really nice kind of individual strike coming from Michael Boswick, who was back in the team as well, playing a great pass forward. But yeah, we've got the international break now to move on from that. But overall, what were your thoughts on that game?
I think we showed we were mentally tired. I think the physical side you saw more on Saturday against MK Dons, but I think we were mentally tired on Tuesday night, and I think we were ready for the break. I think we came across a team that were very similar to us, that they wanted to slow the game down at the right times. But obviously then when they got the ball, wanted to go very direct. So, it was a very fast-paced game, but obviously them getting that goal early doors, it allowed them to slow the game down very, very early on. I think there was at least 2, if not 3 players booked for time wasting. And I think that time wasting started in the first half. And we've seen us do it over the years. We've seen us do it with Gary Rowett, Nigel Clough twice, Jimmy in his past regime, Bucco's done it, Jimmy's done it again. That we will try and slow the game down when the ball goes out of play for throw-ins or whatever. Certainly if we're a goal up or if we're away from home. So to see a team do that to us and do it probably quite effectively, again, it probably frustrated us no end. And obviously with that mental kind of tiredness kicking in, that probably didn't help mentally either. So again, I think the accumulation of fitness levels, teams working us out, Shrewsbury playing a similar kind of game to us, matching us up probably, and that time wasting kind of factor. I think we just came a bit unstuck again on Tuesday night, and the same as kind of said about Saturday against MK Dons. We haven't got a kind of a plan B. I know we've got Michael Fond up to throw on there, and Jimmy went 4-4-2 for the last 5 or 10 minutes. But obviously probably not something that's worked on much in the week, lumping that ball over the top. And I'll go back to that Russell Martin comment from last week that I heard him say when he was criticised. I'm with him. If you believe in a philosophy, a way of playing, why should you change it? But on the same token, we did need something different. People come in and said that when we needed the manager, bring Jimmy back, we played some of our best football under him. We got some of our best results under Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, yes, and I think that's proving now. Do we play entertaining football and attractive football? No, I don't think we do. It's you don't get so many 1-0s by playing expansive football, do you? So we're solid, we're compact, and when you go a goal down, it's very, very hard to come back from that. And you say we've gone up through the gears, but we're probably a gear or 2 light when we are mentally and physically struggling. So it was a frustrating game. I think they're no better than us. Certainly, obviously they're 1 place higher in the league. I think they're 5 points above us now. I think we'd have took them if we'd have won. So the 2 evenly matched sides, and I think that early goal changed the way the game was set up, because obviously they just slowed it down and they could be compact and they didn't have to chase the game and leave spaces open, which in recent times that's where we've exploited. We waited for teams to come at us a little bit, and then we've gone and hit them hard and hurt them when those pockets of space have appeared. So yeah, frustrating.
Yeah, and it was actually a frustrating start to the game as a fan. The goal we conceded is kind of one that you watch it back, and I mean you can say this and that, but whichever way you look at it, it was a really poor goal to concede so early on. I think for me, I think when that ball comes into the box, I mean I'm a goalkeeper, so I'm going to do my best to side with Ben Garrett. So for me, I think John Brayford should I think you've got to kind of take a swing at that, whether your keeper shouts it or not, and whether that means him kind of getting told off after that, so be it. But I think I'm a little bit I was a little bit disappointed that a defender of kind of Brayford's experience didn't just kind of go, well, I'm stood on the edge of my 6-yard box here. This ball's going to bounce high. I don't actually know who's behind me. just kind of, put a foot through it and have at it. But then at the same time, whether if Ben Garrett shouts for that or it's a little bit awkward to tell. But if he does, he's got to kind of make sure that he's going to claim it. He doesn't, the player nicks in and kind of whether he gets a touch on it or not. But, there's a sloppy goal to concede.
Firstly, well done for after about 6-7 weeks, you finally admitted you're a goalkeeper after trying to pen you in and kind of open you up to that. But no, you're right. On the football pitch, the best person with the best view of patterns of play, whether it's attacking or defending, is the goalkeeper. He can see everything in front of him. So whether it's him calling to deal with it or him telling somebody else to deal with it, he has got a command on his line and off the line, and he has got to communicate with the other 10 members of his team. So, and foremost, in my opinion, whether he has to deal with it or he tells Johnny Brayford to deal with it, that decision should primarily come from him, and he should be the communicator and the leader in that situation. On the other side of it, as you said, Johnny Brayford's played a lot of games and are very experienced, and he probably should have dealt with the situation better as well. But going back to what we've said, we know Johnny Brayford in the past has struggled Saturday, Tuesday. So fair play for the lad, and he's dealt with it. He's played every week. I think he's had one game rest where he came on, I think, in the second half. So for me, he's one that will probably be thankful of the rest mentally as well. But no, so yeah, I think the blame can go to both players. But for me, Ben Garrett can see the pitch, and he's the one that's either got to tell somebody else to deal with it or he's got to deal with it himself, and obviously neither happens. So
yeah, and that's fair enough. And it kind of, I think, it depends how people feel as well, and kind of how they view that. But we went on to concede another goal that I think kind of, you watched it and you were very kind of, you were left frustrated again. It was, I mean, it's a really good finish by their player with a first time volley, but he's also, you've got to give credit to him, but he's also kind of stood not really near any one of our players. It's a cross coming from the wide position, kind of caught us a little bit on the break. It just kind of caught us off guard, and he puts a nice finish into the corner. But just a kind of one that we're actually, I think we'd be more used to scoring against someone than having them scored against us recently. And, hitting them on the break, kind of, we just looked a little bit off, and, unfortunately it kind of went against us with a good finish.
Yeah. I said the goalkeeper's got to take, control of the situation. He sees all of it. And as I said earlier on, I'm probably Garrett's biggest critic. But what I will say is he's improved no end in the last 3 months, whether that be through the new goalkeeper coach or new manager giving him a bit of confidence, putting him in. So, he's saved us a lot of points more than he's cost us a lot of points. So I think it's really harsh to criticise him too much. And obviously with the goalkeeper, as I said to you earlier, he makes one mistake. It normally does end up with a goal. You talked about that cross and the volley coming in. The goalkeeper's the last line of defence. So there's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4 things before it gets to the goalkeeper that are at fault before the actual bloke does take a shot off. So we haven't closed the guy down for the cross. We obviously, originally the ball's got to go out to the wing, so we didn't close the ball to get it from out there. The cross was then allowed to come in, so we didn't stop it. Obviously, then no one was marking and picking up the man for him to be able to do it. So it's easy to criticise goalkeepers and say that they've got to be commanding and communicating. But on the same token, they are the last line of defence. So there's got to be a number of other errors before it gets to that point. So we should have shut the cross down. We shouldn't have allowed the ball to go out wide before the cross. So it's easy to blame one person when he's made a mistake earlier on in the game. But I don't think he was fully at fault for any of that. And he probably was a little bit low on confidence after that goal because he probably know that he should have dealt with it better. So for me, yeah, I think it was silly little errors that have crept back in. I say more mentally tough, the tougher side of it, I think, that we're struggling on more than the fitness at the minute. So the break really has come at the right time.
Yeah, but we went on to, as we did against MK Dons, we went on to kind of showed a little bit of fight, which is good, a bit of kind of, desire. I think we must have scored no sooner than 5 minutes after Shrewsbury made it 2. Michael Bosworth with a really great pass out from the back. Finds Sean Clare, who goes on a pretty mazy run and then sticks in the top corner. One of the kind of few moments of quality in what was, I think, quite a poor game of football. As you said, kind of they played as similar to us, and we ended up kind of just matching them all over the pitch, kind of trying to do the same things in the same areas and kind of cancelled each other out. The unfortunate thing comes in the fact that they've scored their 2 chances and we've only scored maybe our chance, but it was a good goal, and I think one that Sean Clare's deserved because he's been really good since kind of coming in recently. He's had a little bit of a tough spell since returning from suspension. I think has kind of dropped off a little bit, but as a goal, it's a good confidence booster, and gave us a chance to get back into the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the disappointing things, and we've stuck to the same team for the majority of the games. So there's people on the bench that are still quite fresh. Obviously, Joe Powell, Ryan Broom, obviously Danny Rowe, unfortunately back out injured again. Josh Parker, Michael Fondop. Powell showed glimpses when he came on. He wants the ball at his feet and he wants to be running at people. But obviously that isn't kind of, Johnny Smith does that. That isn't the kind of way we play. We're more direct than that. But for me, when Brian Broom signed, I thought he was a great signing, and I think I spoke before. The way he plays reminds me a lot of Mark Duffy. I know he's not had a lot of game time, but even when he has come on, he hasn't really shown me any reason to why he should be in the starting 11 or why he could come on to change the game. Actually, I think he had a few minutes on Tuesday, but he wasn't very effective. Obviously, Josh Parker's had a spell out of the squad completely. Obviously, Jimmy wasn't, and Dino weren't happy with his contribution. But we've got players that can change games and offer that different dynamics, and those are the ones that are going to be chomping at the bit. Say at times like this, and this is when Jimmy wanted a bigger squad for these occasions where people are mentally and physically tired, but they've got to come off the bench and kind of been going, Gaffy, you should be picking me, and I'm going to show you why now. I don't think that was the case when they were given the opportunities on Tuesday. I know it's hard. You got a team that are sitting back, getting 11 men behind the ball and kind of doing what we do to other teams. But someone's just got to take the bull by the horn, scruff by the neck, and just try and make that moment of magic to do it. And unfortunately that wasn't the case, so we kind of stuttered, and although we did step up, as you say, a few gears, we just never found that opportunity. And when we did have opportunities, they always fell to defenders rather than attackers, and you can't knock the defenders because they've scored a lot of goals in the last few months. Boswick, Carter, Brayford, they've all scored, so you can't knock them for that as well. They're in the side to defend primarily. I know that everyone's got to, attackers have got to defend and defenders have got to attack, but they're defenders for a reason. Otherwise, they'll be on 100 grand a week playing in the Premier League as a striker. So, it's disappointing so far, but so close. As they're stepping up those gears, but it's just having that magic key to unlock that door at the right time for and that chance to fall to the right player.
Yeah, and like you said, it's kind of a good time for the break to come in a way. We've spoken about it. We get the energy back, get the kind of mental and physical fitness back up there, kind of get back in position for when we come back after the break and hopefully be raring to go. And we're still definitely not in a bad place, Anton. We're still very, we're in a brilliant place when you consider, like you said earlier on, about how kind of how lost we looked earlier in the season. And I still think, I still stand by the fact that there's a very good chance that we will stay up. A lot of teams below us now just seem to be kind of going through the motions, stuttering along a little bit. So hopefully, we'll get a bit of rejuvenation, kind of come back after the break, win a few games, and then we're in, a brilliant place.
Yeah, we've got some interesting games, haven't we? Just looking now, Accrington, Good Friday, and obviously then we travel to, we've got home against Swindon, which, we need to make sure we pick up points there, a home game again. Then we travel obviously to Portsmouth, obviously new manager in there, so that'll be a tough task. Doncaster, obviously in the playoff mix. Plymouth at home, again, not an easy game. They'll play some good football, and then we've got Lincoln, another hard game, followed by Wigan, who obviously picked up in form. Fleetwood again, still outside chance of the playoffs, I think. So there's some hard games in there still. So Bristol Rovers have shown they're in for a fight. Swindon are a fairly big club, so they're going to be in for a fight. So we've got to make sure we are looking over our shoulder a little bit. And I keep, I've said this for weeks. I'm really, really positive about our chances, but I wasn't getting carried away as well. So we've got to make sure that we come back after this break and we don't lose games. Whether it be draws, points are vital, however many they are, whether it be 3 or 1. But the first thing we need to do is make sure we stop conceding 2 goals, shut up shop a little bit again, and try and get in, go to the game after 70 minutes at 0-0 or 1-1 or whatever, and then that's when we can step up and our fitness levels go forward. So there's a long way to go. 10 games I think there is to play, as we've said. We've got some teams around us, and we've got some teams at the top end of the league. So, there's some tough games. There's teams around us, and at the bottom, they're going to be scrapping. Obviously, the teams at the top are vying for that prize of getting into the championship as well. So, we've really have got to be on our mettle from Monday when they go back into training.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of said it a few times earlier in Jimmy's reign, that if you can kind of beat the teams around you, anything else after that is a bonus. And that's what we've been so good at, is we've kind of beaten the teams that are lurking around us, but we've also gone and taken points off teams up there. And I'm sure that's kind of something that they'll be looking to kind of inject back into the team a little bit, kind of bring that kind of not the fight back, but kind of, we can compete with these big boys, but at the same time, if we can go and get results against the likes of Swindon and Wigan, then that's going to make our life a whole lot easier, because it's, not only is it that us getting 3 points, but it's them getting none. And as basic and silly as that sounds, it can go a long way.
Yeah, I think, we are miles better off than I think any of us would have hoped, imagined, or prayed for at Christmas time. We're rock bottom of the league, 16 points, and it just looked doom and gloom, didn't it? And even though we were all very positive, I say all, there was a lot of people positive about the appointment, and obviously great, the Jimmy's back and he's going to change fortunes around. We also need to be realistic as well. But he has got us out of this really tight spot. He's given us a good cushion with those run of games. But we've just got to go back to the philosophy of we plan for a game, we execute it and review, and we go from a game to game basis. I think they've got to kind of maintain that they look at the team as an individual, how they play, but don't look where they are in the league, because it's a strange league this season, and we've shown before we can beat anybody. So don't look where they are in the league. If they're below us, above us, around the same place, let's just go from that first whistle, play our game, do the tactical tweaks here and there, but don't, the form goes out the window, doesn't it? What happens in that 90 minutes is the thing that's most crucial. So we're just going to go from game to game basis, not worry about what's going on elsewhere. As long as we do our things right, we will pick up more points and we will be out of trouble, no doubt.
Yeah, I completely agree there, Anton. And with that, it's been a good talk. We've kind of, as we look ahead, the Brewers looking to kind of get that little edge back that we've had have held for so long. And yeah, we'll kind of look to move on a little bit of a break now, and then back into it, like you said, on Good Friday against Accrington.
Yeah, obviously coming up against our old friends in John Coleman, who's doing a fantastic job of there. They're a small club, but they're like us. We have done in the past. They're punching, and they deserve all the success, and he deserves all the success for the hard work he's put in. Their chairman there is very, who's like us. He's very community based. Tries to get the fans involved for the club of their size, and it's very hard to expand the club, with a small fan base. But he's doing all he can to in there, and they're doing a fantastic job. So we've definitely got to be on our mettle, because they're going to come for a fight. They're close to that promised land like we were once before, and we've shown a lot of teams what can be capable of. So they'll believe that they can do it. So it'll be a really good test to come back into after this little break.
Yeah, like you said, Atkins are doing an excellent job. Hopefully, they won't do an excellent job on us in a week's time. But yeah, Anton, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
No problem. Anytime.
And we'll catch up next week as we kind of look after the international break ahead of some important games coming up.
Yep, defo. Take care. Stay safe, folks.
Cheers. Thanks, Anton. See you later.
See ya.